And welcome back to Run the Terra. This is episode 32. I am Grandmaster Dan.
I'm Adam Edelman Munoz.
And I'm Stan Jarzewski.
And we have a bit of a banger, as the kids are saying these days, today. We have some new cards in the mix, patch 1.12. So we got a little meta shake-up. Maybe not so much as you think. Maybe as much as you think, because you've probably already been playing if you're listening to this. Also going to talk about some of the cards we think are going to be popping off. And we're going to talk about this tournament thing that's happening that just kind of got spoiled to us. But I think we're going to kind of get into... Actually, let me go ahead and take an address here really quickly. I was going to do this last week, but kind of got our schedules mixed up. I was going to say, hey, Riot, don't actually change Bastion from 3 to 4 because I like it now. It's good. It's perfect. Don't worry that I'm playing the number one deck with Lee Sin in it. It's just, hey, that's fine. It's fine now. Let me get up to Masters and then nerf it. But they kind of didn't wait for me to announce that. So Bastion is back down to 4. Riot will be hearing from my lawyers. My Lisa and Diana deck is just that much worse. But hey, maybe we can talk about the meta a little bit. First off, I'll just start before Stan gets into it. Lisa still at the top.
Yep. Yep, that's all.
And it honestly feels good. Love that deck.
Yeah, I mean,
now that we got
the Bastion nerf was still a relative buff from where it used to be by a fairly large margin.
Exactly. So it's still going to be played.
It's still
I'm only
completely
playing
impossible
2.
to lose value on the card.
Exactly. Like I'm only playing 2 now, but I also don't know if that's correct. But also the switch from what was his name? What's Timmy Goodlooking from Targon? What's his name?
Tarek.
There we go. Close enough. Once we switched from Tarek to Diana, I was like, oh, I'm all in on this deck now. Because I think Diana's just a great fucking card to play.
Yeah.
And the deck just feels, it just feels like a well-oiled machine. But
Diana
anyway,
gives me Elise vibes. Like remember in early Legends where just you put Elise in every Shadow Isles deck?
Oh,
Diana...
wait, never mind. She actually didn't get nerfed, so yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's
fine.
No, I mean, you used to put Elise in every Shadow Isles deck, because Elise was just a good card.
Maybe she should have gotten nerfed instead of literally every other card around her. But
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think she was just good in the meta she was in, because... Adam, finish your statement. I think that... Yeah.
Long story short, Diana's the same, right? She's just a fairly solid card. The Nightfall cards are not actually restrictive enough to make it so that you're giving anything up to support her. So in all reality, all you're doing with Diana is playing good cards and playing this very good 2-drop.
Also, when you see 2 of her, you're like, yes! I'm both increasing her level up condition and getting more value out of her, and also drawing a card. Like, she has one of the best champ spells, I would say.
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, Pale Cascade is just in general nuts.
Yes, it is buck wild how good that card is and how many times I've won the game off of like a double Pale Cascade because she's in my hand.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I am often frustrated I can't cast Pale Cascade on opposing units. That card is just that card is so good if you cast it on anything of your own. But like 2-mana cantrip at burst speed is fine.
Especially when you have a Nightfall synergy in your deck. Like, jeez.
Hell, I felt the same way about Guiding Touch. Just wanting to cycle a card. Like,
honestly, that's not a bad point either.
Guiding Touch you can just always aim at your own Nexus though if you're
you can,
desperate to cycle.
I mean, unless you have a galaxy-brained opponent who won't attack you, so you can't use your Guiding Touch, which has never happened to me. But I don't know. What world does that happen in?
You can Guiding Touch yourself on full health.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind then. Yeah. Who cares then? Yeah, cool. Whatever.
It's always live, folks. But yeah, meta changes. I mean, you know what? We're gonna mix up a little bit today. All right, patch 1.12. I'm gonna start talking about the meta mostly because I think of all of us here, I have played the most of the new meta, which is to say, I've played about 5 games.
Work's been hitting me hard.
Yeah,
and I will say that I have faced almost exclusively Tom Kinch and Acel decks. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why they're not playing the Lee Sin decks. But Yeah, I would say Tom Kench is one of those things where if you caught with your pants down and your shoes are tied together and also you're blind and it's 5 o'clock in the morning and you don't have your keys and you don't have any money to call an Uber, Tom Kench will absolutely run you over, which is to say, it's not quite there. I mean, it's good if you can somehow get it to snowball, and like once it does snowball, it's an avalanche, but there's just way too many ways to deal with them.
Tom Kench is one of those cards that once you get the lead, losing it with Tom Kench,
Yes,
but getting
true.
there in the first place is a bit awkward, especially because Tom Kench is actually just not that cost efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we do see him already at the B tier, kind of like that tier 2 with combo with Soraka. I mean, I think Soraka's honestly pulling the most weight around here. I mean, that was a pretty obvious combo between them.
I mean,
Between the
Soraka
two.
and Starspring are some very potent cards, and it happens that all the self-damage Village Water plays well into that, but I imagine those will play all over the place.
I think it's also very telling, and we'll get into this later, but Starspring's like the only landmark being played at the higher tiers that I can see.
Yeah.
Or at least it's being played consistently at the higher tiers, I should say, and has like a win percentage above, I don't know, 45. But, and like that's not to say that there's not possibilities for them. There's a lot of new cards to test, but it's like Starspring is such an obviously good landmark that's kind of just obviously heads above the rest.
Oh yeah.
To start with.
I mean, it's clearly balanced to all hell because they chose 22, and that there's no way that 22
I don't know
was
about
the wrong
you,
number.
but I'm feeling 22. They probably just listened to that Taylor Swift song.
Yep.
But yeah, we got some more stuff. I mean,
that makes
there's
so
not
much
been a
sense.
ton of shakeup. That's really been like the main pop out from the new cards. I've seen Shiv going around. It's close. Like you compare Shiv with, I saw Shiv with Asol, and I think that was a disaster. That was kind of like a dumb game. But Shiv with like Fiora is really good. Definitely B tier stuff. Nothing has really, I mean, in my opinion, this is good. Nothing has like is brand new and needs to go away. It's
Right.
more like, oh, damn, Bastion's still here, huh? And yeah, I think that's really a lot of what I've been seeing for the metagame. Just play Lisa and Diana. I don't know what else I don't know why you're doing anything else.
Yeah, I think like looking at the Dragons package, it is like the Shyvana Dragons package is everything that a fourth grader ever wanted. But
Yeah.
More importantly, it looks like
Brian Kibler ever wanted, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't retract my
he is
statement.
a fourth grader trapped in a 38-year-old man's body.
Yeah, and hey, maybe he has an intellect far greater than that of any other fourth grader, but
He has the same attention deficit as a fourth grader.
But like this deck is kind of just like looking through it exactly what Demacia want. Like these dragons, even the ones that aren't Demacian, they're Demacia cards. They're just beef. Just this deck is raw beef.
And also one thing nice about this deck is that 80% of the cards are in fact with the name dragon on them, or
That's
egg,
true.
or reference some dragon type thing.
Yeah.
Flame,
And
fire, dragon.
I think this is the kind of deck though that like will it'll always see play on the fringes. It'll always see its dedicated I loved wagons players, but I think that this is the type of deck that in certain metagames is just gonna be like a monster. Like if the meta leans a certain way, this type of deck just runs over so much stuff.
I mean, maybe. The more I look at this deck, the more I think, okay, we take out the top end, we add some Bannermen, and then we take out more top end and add more cards that are in Bannerman already, and then suddenly we have a Bannerman deck.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't.
Like-
Yeah.
but you
I'm
see,
having
the thing
trouble
is-
justifying playing this over Bannerman, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, this goes higher than Bannerman does. If it is able to, keep alive until turn
84.
7.
Then
Just
it's-
7.
I mean, but
I think
at
after
mid-range
turn
deck-
7 it beats Bannerman.
Yeah, sure, but in exactly that matchup, you're right. But any mid-range deck that survives till turn 7 wins, either wins or loses based on the matchup, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. And again,
Like if this deck survives to
that's what
turn
I'm
7,
saying.
it beats all the aggro decks and loses to all the control decks.
Yeah, and that's why, again, I'm saying in a certain meta, there are certain places where this type of deck does really well. And I don't even know if this necessarily loses to all control decks. I mean, Eclipse Dragon on Nightfall is a pretty good way to deal with control, assuming you don't hit really poorly on your dragons and celestials.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's got some acceptable top end, but like, is this a good? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is the control decks that have real win conditions. You know, this doesn't beat a
Can this
Warmother's
beat
Call
those?
because it just gets out tempoed. This doesn't beat a Ledros. This doesn't beat an Ezreal. Right? There's no real control win condition that this beats. So this beats the mid-range decks masquerading as control decks.
This might beat a Ledros, actually. Mind Splitter.
I just love... Every Ledros deck has an Atrocity in it.
That's true.
Yeah,
but,
this does
this deck can't heal, can it? It's got to heal off of something
any healing.
lucky, so... Yeah, Ledros Atrocity does still do it. Yeah.
But all said and done, though, I mean, it's an acceptable mid-range build. It's a different build to Bannerman, and like even though I don't think there's a reason to play it over Bannerman, that doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. You know, it would not surprise the world to find out I was wrong once in a while. And B, like it's fun. You enjoy your deck, maybe, and you do get to go over Bannerman, right?
Yeah. And like I said, I think it's got to be a pretty specific meta for something this straightforward to be the best thing to do. Because that's the real thing about this deck, is it is immensely straightforward. It is... I think he rated it as easy, right? Good, yeah. So this deck should be listed as literally, like, my first Runeterra deck. Like, it's super straightforward what you're doing here. Your plan has nothing besides just slam, go, slam, go. So I think, to that regard, this is another just... I don't think we're necessarily in a good place if this is the best deck in the meta, but, it's just interesting how straightforward this deck is. It's rare that we've seen something that is literally just feels like you've slapped the easiest idea you can think of together and, it's somewhat viable.
You mean since the last time we saw 40 burn cards, and then before that 40 Demacian cards, and 37 Demacian cards and 3 Bannermen?
Yeah, so those... The difference between those and this, that requires...
you can flex with Bannerman decks. You can flex into a different region. You can flex for Deny.
Sure. Yeah, you can flex for 1 Deny and 3 Shadow Assassin.
But to me, those are...
I'm going to flex for Bastion, dude. Fuck you.
Those were straightforward, like... I know how to play a card game deck building decisions. This one is literally just, I want to play dragons, and you just slapped all the best dragons into a deck. Like, this is so much more straightforward than knowing what a burn spell is and what a burn spell should do.
You say that, Stan, but when I was trying to build the burn deck and I couldn't remember what it was off the top of my head, I just typed the word damage into the search bar and it got me everything.
Yeah.
That's a lot of damage.
But, again, I feel like that, it doesn't require any knowledge of card games to go, I want to make a deck with all the dragons. Whereas it takes some to go, why would you want to play all the face damage spells without knowing that that's something that works in games,
Speaking of dragons,
Dragons.
let's talk about the new landmarks, none of which feature dragons.
That's true.
So, there are 6 new landmarks? I guess it's 1 for each region, is that correct?
There are 6 landmarks, which is not 1 for each region because there are 8 regions.
Whew, they couldn't think up 1 for... What are we missing? Demacia and something else?
Demacia and Ionia, rather, don't have any landmarks.
All right. Well, you know what?
They'll probably get
maybe
them
they
in
could
the
throw
next expansion.
Demacia, the fucking dragons, or sort of. How about throwing elites? Great. All right. Let's start cutting into these. So there's only 6 of them. Like we said, Star Spring, great.
I mean, it's a win condition, right? There's always going to be a Star Spring deck because it says win the game on it. Right?
Yeah.
It may not always be good, but there will always be like a Star Spring deck because you can't get what you're getting from Star Spring from any other card in the game.
Of these, I guess 5 remaining, since we have seen a fair bit of Star Spring, and it's pretty straightforward. Do we see any other opportunities? I mean, I kind of thought, let's see.
Vaults of Helia,
yeah.
I like.
Vaults of Helia?
I think that it does a powerful thing, right? It gives you a fair amount of gradual advantage. It makes trading a lot better for you.
Yeah.
Or uneven trades, right? Trades where you don't lose your unit.
Correct.
And in general, it kind of build, and it also slots well into existing game plans, right? The Rekindler and Nivea decks can play this, just very few changes. Some of the more aristocratic aggro decks can play this. Pretty much any, a lot of decks with Shadow Isles are already set up to make use of this, and like, and because Shadow Isles does so well with dying units, that I think that this is just. It may not have a position just yet, just because the meta's in flux. People are still figuring out what to play and what the best units are, and Bastion makes Shadow Isles decks cry. But I think that this is likely to be at some point, either in the near future or at least before the next cards come out, a real competitive card.
I can see that. I think it's pretty solid. Wait, am I? There we go. Yeah. Okay, how about this? Gun to your head, you have to have 6 landmarks in your deck. What do you do?
Got 6 landmarks in my deck?
Yeah, because you can only have 6 total. Or I guess it's 3 copies of each, I'm sorry.
Yeah, two landmarks, 3 each. Yeah, I know what you meant.
Yeah. Okay.
Damn. I think I'm going...
I think this is interesting.
This is interesting.
I think I would keep it simple and probably try to do something with Star Spring and Vaults of Helia, because I think you could probably do some type of weird heal stuff. Is there much of heal on play?
So the biggest issue with that is that there's not a lot of heal on summon. And remember, you're not playing
that's what I meant. Yeah,
vaults, you're summoning.
Okay.
And even if there was, vaults would kill damaged units, right? If you do that trading pattern,
that's true.
You lose the damaged units that you want to heal. Now, my instinct would probably be to go like. Either Vaults and Noxcaria, and just try to get good units and have them fight.
Yeah.
Or alternately, Star Spring and Howling Abyss, and just like have 2 different late game value engine or late game win conditions.
I could also see the arena comboed with a Star Spring, where you're damaging your allies but also healing them quite quickly with Soraka and Star Spring.
Yeah, it's kind of like Noxus Targon mid-range thing going on with the heal as an alternate win.
The Crimsons. Yeah.
Vlad type stuff. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I think that would work pretty well. I feel like, and like this is just kind of getting more general, but I feel like the Slaughter Docks, not that great. I could be wrong. I'm not quite seeing it. I feel like the deep decks, once they're at the end game, they don't need this. And before that, it's a little slow. It's a little slow compared to like Jettison. I don't think deep decks need to be control decks. I think they have to kind of just like power through and get to that deep condition as fast as possible.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I think it looks like. And even if they were control decks, you just add more control tools and you'd get deeps, and you'd just let yourself get deep slowly. You wouldn't spend a card on it, right?
Right, exactly.
The problem is this is a 3-mana Jettison. If it takes you 4 turns to get to deep.
Yeah,
if you want it to be better than Jettison, that means you're not getting to deep till like 5 until turns. If you play this on turn 3, so for this to be better than Jettison at getting to deep, you have to play it. You have to get to like turn 7. I mean, it gives you a random sea monster, but. A random sea monster is not bad, but it's not amazing either.
Yeah, I'm just not. It's not there, Chief. This one's going to need a rework from me. Let's go into the other 2.
That could cost 1 at no downside.
Mm-hmm. Let's break into the other two that we haven't talked about. University of Piltover and the Howling Abyss. So with Piltover, where we're discarding our hands. Okay, so this might have some synergy with Jinx. I don't think I've seen it.
So I've been playing some Jinx aggro recently just to see if I can make it work. It's okay, not amazing, but solid. University is an okay card in it. You're often in an endgame scenario where you have emptied your hand for a Jinx or something, and then your Jinx dies. Having a card that just always refills your hand. Yeah. Is it called Unstable Voltation?
Which one's the one that
was the one that gave quick attack?
You dump your hand and draw cards.
Unstable Voltation, I think. Yeah.
All right, I had it backwards. Yes. I usually run one. No, that's Augmented Experimenter. I was right.
Okay.
Unstable Voltation is the
Unstable
one that gives quick attack.
Somebody doing things with
Yeah.
electricity.
Yeah. So I usually run one augmented experimenter in that deck.
Yeah.
Sometimes two if I'm feeling frustrated with
little
drawing
spicy.
for each turn.
Yeah.
And I think this could go in that slot as a one of.
Sure.
You don't want a lot of it, and obviously you need to get to it. But it always triggers your jinx. It always gives you something to do if you have already emptied your hand, and just in general, it's a fairly acceptable value generator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's clunky though. 5 mana is not exactly where you want to be, especially if you're not impacting the board. So I would never run more
Right.
than one of this.
I'd like
I
to
agree.
see where it gets in like some sort of burn shell where you're kind of hoping you just get more over the top toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
I
can see that.
It's like
Yeah.
you're
As your fourth copy of Decimate.
kind of, sort of, or
Yeah.
more is just like you're hyper aggressively running yourself out of cards, so just getting 3 more cards every turn ends up being a huge deal to make sure you still have gas. Because I have noticed, in those older aggro shells like the PNZ Nox one, it's, really easy to run out your hand. Getting 3 more cards every turn, even if they aren't necessarily, even if they're random, could give you much better odds against certain matchups. Again, it might still be a bit too slow. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about, honestly, Volts of Helia, is I don't think there's a spot in the meta for that card right now, because you have to skip turn 5, essentially, to play this card, and hope that you still have an ally on board that gets you something useful outside of it, that costs exactly 1 more. The deck building constraints are just kind of insane, and the tempo loss is also insane. That's kind of why the only...
So I've played the pod era of Magic. The deck building constraints sound bad, but it actually turns out it's not as terrible as it seems. Mostly because the requirement of playing different things on curve and playing value creatures are both not as high requirements as they sound.
And again, it depends on what's worth it to do in here. Because Pod was a combo deck, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
Pod had a
But
combo
you can also be
kill,
played as a-
and Pod also you got to choose.
Those are
Yeah,
two...
like you could
I'm
just.
not saying this is Pod.
those are
but
two
that said,
huge,
Towards-
huge differences
yeah.
to this.
The thing about Pod was that Pod's deck building requirements were frankly negligible, right?
Yeah,
There was a best Pod shell, but there was a ton of flexibility in Pod. In part because Pod was a tutor and you could afford to get away with stuff, but also because there were just a lot of options at various costs. And while this game is not as developed,
Eventually.
you're also just you want to play on curve, right? Building a curve is not. It's just never going to hurt you as badly as it sounds.
Well, again, still the problem is, though, especially with this game being as unit heavy as it is, turn 4 play a unit, turn 5 play this, turn 5 your opponent kills your unit and hits you in the face or something, you've just gotten absolutely blown out.
For your opponent to both kill your turn 4 play and hit you in the face, they have to
There's
be
some
ahead on
mistakes
board.
going on.
But again...
and removal sucks, as we've established.
Yeah. So, again, I don't see this card going very far until there is a combo it can abuse. Maybe something with Tortured Prodigy is probably the best thing I can think of, where you're getting something off that extra kill. And again, it does nothing the turn it comes down. You are entirely skipping your turn 5, allowing your opponent to develop just to get 1 more big unit on turn 6. Like, that's such a narrow condition.
I mean, it's a long game card, right? If you end the game at turn 6 in your mind, this card's terrible, but games won't end on turn 6 every game.
I do think they probably could have done round end on this one.
I think round end makes this card significantly better and much closer to being playable. At round start,
How are they different?
So...
You get an extra trigger off of round
you
end.
get 1 extra trigger, which matters a lot.
Before what?
Before, I mean, it's just an extra trigger. That helps a lot.
Oh, I'm wrong.
No. Round end and round start happen immediately, one after the other. There's
wrong.
no way in which
wrong.
those two are different,
Right.
except with regards
That's
to
true.
other round start and round end cards.
That's true. That's true. It's literally true. it's literally true. Anyways, let's just skip that for now. Howling Abyss is the last landmark. And I think it's the one that's the most interesting. It's kind of why I wanted to leave it for last. I think it's the most interesting, but also I don't see. It's wild. This is like the most, what is it, Spike card? Johnny card?
Timmy.
Johnny card. It's
This is a Timmy
right?
card. No. Johnny cards are
Combo
cards where.
players. Oh, yeah. It's
Johnny cards
random.
are. I mean,
Yeah,
this
it's random.
has some Johnny applications. I won't say it doesn't because, champions in general are kind of Johnny. But
Yeah,
this
no,
card
this is pretty Timmy.
just
That's
does a cool, exciting thing every turn. That's a Timmy card.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I'm such a Johnny player that I'm like sitting here trying to think of like how I can stack my deck with worse champions so that I only random into the better champions. And I'm like, I just made a goofy. That's not a good plan. But I want to like get a calculator for this. It's just like this is what's gonna happen. Like, this is the most likely outcome, and it's like. You always draw a flipped Teemo in your like control deck or something, and you're like, okay, I'm doubling 0 mushrooms every turn. Great.
I in fact did make a list of these with some eyeball notions. I'd say let's see how there are. I'd say you're about like 1 in 5 to get 1 in 6 to get like a trash outcome, and that's Teemo, Fizz, Diana, Elise, and Maokai, all of whose level 2s do very little. I mean, Elise is a 4-3
like
challenger,
2-mana
whatever.
creatures, 3-mana creatures, yeah.
I mean, they're all efficient. They're all cost efficient for their mana cost, right?
3 mana.
A 2/2 elusive for 1 is a great card if you can put it in your deck, but you can't.
Right.
About half the time, you get a fairly middling result. These are your Dravens, your Hecarims, your Nocturnes. These are not bad cards. In fact, they're fairly solid. But to draw them on turn 8 is just behind their most potent point in the game, and they're still just bodies. And then the remaining, the remaining kind of third of the time, you get something interesting. You get either
You're in the money.
like some excellent late game control finisher like Asol or Anivia, or Callista, who when she's level on, who if you don't have to level her, it becomes a very strong control condition and gets better with the more stuff you discover. Or you just get some very nice stats. I mean, level 2 Tryndamere is ironically worse than level 1 Tryndamere, but he's still a 9/9 Overwhelm Fearsome.
Yeah.
So I guess the question, you probably just play this with 3 of Trundle, 3 of Sedge in your deck, and you just play a Ramp Shell, right? Like, that seems...
You could do that. The other possibility is you swap one of those for Braum to stall.
For 1 Braum? Or for 3?
No, for 3 Braum. It's just like a early game stall condition, because this is a very
drop like Sedge or Trundle for it.
Slow condition.
Yeah.
I'd probably drop Sedge for it.
Yeah, because you're probably not hitting too hard, so Sedge flips it.
But you also get a huge tempo swing from Trundle, Ice Pillar into this.
I think Trundle is like for sure in the deck. Like you need the Trundle. So I guess Braum's the stall. Well, what turns are you playing what? Because I think you're playing for pure ramp with this card. Like you want to play this on turn 5 if you can.
I guess if you're going the fast ramp, you drop the Braums because your objective is to just like maximize your odds against the actual stuff.
I think fast ramp is the way to go.
In which case, you probably want other ramp payoffs. So I might go this plus this plus Tryndamere in the deck, so you don't get the level 2 Tryndamere automatically.
That's not bad.
Because as we mentioned, level 1 Tryndamere better than level 2 Tryndamere.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like your deck is your Trundle, ramp stuff, defensive tools, whatever, and then this and maybe a War Mother's Call or 2.
Yeah, maybe a War Mommy's, maybe.
But then it's like, oh wait, we just messed up, guys. Because why aren't we playing War Mothers instead? Like
this
goes to your
that's the
hand.
secret. But this doesn't mess up War Mothers, which is nice.
Yeah. But does that deck need more finishers? I think this is something we already talked about, but I don't think it does.
I think that it's probably good as is.
This just sounds like we made the all finish. Oops! I finished too fast deck. That's what it sounds like. Oops! Premature ejaculation deck. I've got all finishers here. I don't know, man. We'll leave that for the Timmiest of Timmies out there. I don't know who that is in the Runeterra community, but I'm sure they'll find something. So let's talk about some of the new cards. What do you guys from the new sets of cards? Actually, let's do champions first. So of the new 3 champions? Let's go ahead and get into it a little bit. What we got? Tom Kent, Shyvana, and Soraka.
Yep.
We've already talked a little bit about all of them, but maybe we can get a little deeper into them.
Since we're getting deep, let's start with Tom Kench.
I love it.
So as we mentioned, Tom Kench is a wee bit behind numerically what you'd expect. Mm-hmm. At 4 mana 2/6, he's not hugely amazing. And you don't get your acquired taste, his kind of bonus spell where he captures things until start of round, and even then you need to survive. The enemy strikes you before you capture, so it isn't just free value, right? Tom Kench has a lot of effort that goes into him, but the payoff is enormous, right? A flip Tom Kench just captures and obliterates an opposing unit every turn, assuming you have the healing to get him to the point where he flips, right? Because you're almost never going to flip him without healing, so a flip Tom Kench is almost always going to be a healing Tom Kench as well.
Right.
Yes. I've found that, one thing that's nice about him is that his, and I think they realize this very quickly, is that his signature spell very much helps him flip himself. Mm-hmm. If it was not for that signature spell being Bayou Brunch, which is a great name, by the way, I don't think this card would ever see play. You've pretty much always got to capture one of your own to be able to flip, even with like a Soraka. Mm-hmm. And there are some great things you can do. It's at slow speed, so you can't really like surprise them with then all of a sudden a 10/10 out of nowhere, despite how fun that would be. But yeah, it feels like the kind of card that you first start playing this game and you're like a little stinker that likes to kill stuff, and you play this a ton, and then like your games where you're on, your games where you're off, and it takes you a while to figure out exactly why you're off more than you're on. I don't know.
So my one comment about Tom Kench is you really want to build around him, right? Because he requires so much to enable, and he pays off so well if he is enabled. Most decks that include a Tom Kench are going to be Tom Kench decks. You're not going to see a ton of Bilgewater something that just has 3 Tom Kench.
Well,
I don't think he's ever going to do that.
That's interesting, because I do feel like the deck he's currently in is much more a Soraka deck than it is a Tom Kench deck. He's just got a butt, and that works well for Soraka.
The way you enable Tom Kench's healing, they work very well together.
Absolutely, that's definitely the most straightforward way to do it right now. But I do think that deck is that is Soraka's Starspring deck. Tom Kench is just there to kind of get you through until your Starspring wins, or sometimes brings you over the top.
So since we're here and we're talking about Starspring and Soraka,
really well. Yeah.
Let's talk about Soraka. So Soraka heals your units. Really focuses on healing your units. Healing is so integral to what she does that it kind of makes sense that you're just going to put Starspring in most decks that have Soraka in it. But I think, weirdly enough, despite having an insane synergy with Starspring, Soraka doesn't need all that to function.
Right.
Mm-hmm. With 6 health and basically regenerate because she heals herself every time she supports something, and additional healing for your team, Soraka can play in a lot of mid-range decks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Soraka Lee Sin sometime this expansion.
I tried it. Yeah.
Or Soraka Bannermen. It doesn't take a lot for Soraka to just be worth 6 or 7 bonus health, at which point that's a trade, that's a unit, that's a card, and then you flip her and it's multiple cards.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, she's a very strong Champeroonie. Mm-hmm. Very impressed. Definitely got the good Targon vibe. Very much get that ethereal kind of vibe from her. I can
And just
appreciate
stealing.
And obvious.
Stealing the
Go ahead.
stealing the healing theme straight away from Freljord and just making that Targon's real thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is really awkward that they just kind of toss in this little Bilgewater package with Tom Kench.
To be fair, Bilgewater has
damaging
no
himself.
healing. It just has a bunch of self-damage to make healing work.
Yes.
Right, but it's really awkward it's really awkward they have Tom Kench with the self-damage package that works great with Soraka. They also have a self-damage package separate from that that's in Noxus, and there's also a healing package that's just in Freljord over there to the side. It's a really interesting combo of
I
things
found it
going
funny
on.
because I just, like, when I saw that come up, just my immediate response was, oh, this is Priest from good old that other card game that's like this, Hearthstone.
Hearthstone.
Yeah.
I get that reference really well. Yeah.
I do appreciate that the kind of integral part of the healing focused deck, Starspring, is cheap and like does a small thing until it wins you the game, rather than just being 8 mana, you heal everything everywhere a billion. Then if you've done this, win the game.
Yeah.
Like I like it when the
Incremental.
key cards to a deck are relevant in more games, which means they're cheaper because obviously
Exactly.
some number of games end early, so the cheaper a card is, the more relevant it is in more games.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Should we move on to the final and possibly the most? Well, she's kind of redheaded. I mean, she's wearing a red helmet. Shyvana.
Yes, we move on to Shyvana.
All right. So, 4 mana 3/4.
Yeah, okay,
technically, I guess
that's a review of
4/5.
Shyvana.
Yeah.
Technically a 4/5 most of the time, or I guess
It's a
literally
4/5
half
on
the
your
time.
turn when you can attack.
So not even half the time. And she'll level up when only when she's seen it. Oh, beans! When she's seen Dragon Allies deal 12 damage, I guess including herself.
To become a 4 mana 4/5, a real champion.
Also, just a dog shit fucking was it signature spell? Yikes! That's not a
On
good
the other
spell.
hand, Strafing Strike is actively good if you can get to her.
Yeah, if you can get to it, if you can do 12 damage with her still up, and then also do another attack. Wow. Yeah, I mean, listen, like, it's cool.
Just give her +1/+1 on both ends. It will make her overstated, which is something Demacia does anyways, and we're okay with that.
Yeah, and she's a friggin' dragon, bro. Like, she gets to do that. I don't know. I was kind of frustrated because I thought this was cool because it was like, oh, it's a fiery character in Demacia. That's cool. But now I'm just disappointed. And that's really all I have to offer about Shyvana. I mean, like, sure, I'm sure she'll be in a deck that's good at some point. But I'm just like, why am I not playing Bannerman with this? Like, literally, I could
That's
give
the other
her
reason
+1 sometimes.
we're on the whole Bannerman train, right? Shyvana's
You know
the
what?
reason you want to be in Dragons, and Shyvana's just not that great.
You know what? Make her 3 mana 3/4 and give
That's
her
also
literally
fine with me.
just bump her down 1 mana. I don't even think you have to adjust anything. Just bump her down 1 mana, and then this card's busted actually. But bump her down 1 mana, figure out some adjustments to her, and then I think this card's perfect.
Yeah. Mark my
honestly,
words, Shyvana will see a buff at some point in this expansion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think literally knock her down 1 mana, just take away the attack thing, and just always have her at 3/4. She's a 3 mana 3/4.
So she's just a Badger Bear.
Yeah, but with upside. Yeah, even that's bad. Oh no, what have they done to my shy girl? Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Let's move on. This is sad. All right, it's sad too because the other 2 champs are great. Anyways, all right.
I mean, Tom Kench is a build around that is not is currently being built around in someone else's deck.
See, I still think though that Tom Kench is one of those cards that just like maybe needs to be figured out because I feel like it's such a risk reward thing that it has so much upside that once Tom Kench gets like figured out, like let's say Tom Kench Bastion somehow ends up being like the thing to do or some crazy thing like that, and just Tom Kench has enough tools somewhere that it's inevitable if played right. I'm not saying that's the case right now, that it's what's going to happen, but like that's kind of what he feels like to me, is that he's just waiting to be figured out.
Tom Kench desperately wants a card that grants regenerate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be insane.
Yeah. That's that troll that's in Freljord, one of the behold ones. I think if you behold it, you can give something overwhelm and regen. But anyways, let's talk about some of the cards that weren't as flashy. Some of the epics, some of the rares, commons. I actually want to start with one in particular that is near and dear to my heart, although I kind of hope it sees a tweak eventually. I'm talking, of course, about Stony Suppressor, the 2-mana 1/3 that makes all spells cost one more. This is just my jam. I mean,
that's the kind of card that would be good if spells were good in this game.
What's that?
This is the kind of card that would be good if spells were good in this game.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that, I mean, I could tell, like, Ruben was like, we need to put a Thalia in this game. And I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, it is a different game than Magic. I don't quite see it doing its effect fully. This would also be the kind of card that'd be perfect for sideboards. Just saying.
Yep.
This is where this sideboard is where I would put my card.
If I
had a sideboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that. Because, dang, I love playing Death and Taxes decks. Are there any other tax effects actually in Runeterra?
Not that I can think of.
No, yeah.
I don't think there are either. Yeah, they need to start adding these in.
I mean, there's
anyways,
Will of
yeah,
Ionia, which is not exactly a tax, but...
Are there other cards you guys are looking at? That one thing that I do want to note, it looks like, is this correct? They've got a cycle of 3-mana cards across regions that draw, or that like deal with landmarks in some way. Is that correct?
Do they?
Scorched Earth.
There is one for Bilgewater, one for Noxus, one for Targon, one for
Shadow Isles has a 5-cost card.
What's that?
I think it's more they've given a few of the removal heavy regions answers to landmarks.
Yeah.
Which seems
It's
appropriate.
across, but I guess it's not. I guess it's like 4 or 5 of them. Okay, so it's like it's mainly just ones that are.
I know they've already said that like some of the Celestial cards have been updated to deal with landmarks as well.
Yeah, they obliterate. Various obliterate cards tend to hit landmarks as well.
And I do actually think that that's something kind of important to talk about with landmarks coming out, is that I think we didn't mention probably, is that they are a new card type with a new card targeting system. So I think right now, especially too, since all the landmarks, none of them except for potentially our Starfield boy. Starspring are in any way concerning, and even Starspring isn't so good that we need to worry about it. And that's another really important thing, I think, especially with starting with landmarks right now, is you don't want to make a situation where everybody has to run landmark removal because there's one really good landmark deck, and then once that happens, it becomes this weird rock paper scissors of, oh my god, I have dead cards because it's a landmark deck. Unless you add sideboards, would be great.
Yeah. Our conclusion is, as it ever was, sideboards are great for this type of game. And guys, pay attention. Do some sideboard tournaments, please.
Please.
Speaking of tournaments,
Any other cards that we want to pick up really quick? I mean, like, I just want to give a shout out to my boy Trevor Snoozebottom. That's a great name. Trevor Snoozebottom? Are you kidding me, dude? That's a great name.
That's an amazing name.
I'm ready.
I'd like to shout out Porobot because this card is not only amazing because it's a Poro, but it's actually kind of good in the Poro decks. Right, because Poro decks
we also
are
made a
very...
2-mana Poro. We did it.
Yeah, 2-mana Poro, good.
Yeah.
Helps you curve. I did two mana 2/3, right? It's a Poro with
What do you mean, dude? I could just play
stats.
2 Poros on turn 2. I could just play two 1-mana Poros.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that a lot of Poro decks right now are like Heart of the Fluff to hit you with an enormous elusive thing, and right now they're relying on like either Daring Poro or Poro Cannon as their only way of getting that. So, they've got this kind of limited or awkward ways of getting elusive. And Porobot is not consistent, but it is another way for your fluff to get elusive. Alternately, if you've already got your elusive thing, you can get a defensive keyword like Regenerate to get around damaging, or spell, or hell, this can hit Spell Shield.
Yep. Looking forward to this card when there becomes a busted keyword. Looking forward to it.
Yes, the keyword that should only show up on 10 drops and Poros.
Yeah, let's talk about this tournament. Mostly, I don't know anything about it, so I'm gonna let Adam lead the way.
All right. So Riot have announced something they call seasonal tournaments. The way seasonal tournaments work is that for every season, which I believe is going to be the 2-month period for a card release. I'm not 100% on that, but let me check to see if I can find a good reference for that.
How to qualify.
Yes. All right, yeah. So for every season, for every 2-month period for...
Be one of the top 700 ranked players.
There will be a tournament. The people who are in the tournament are going to be the 700 top ranked players on the ladder, and then there will be a kind of last chance qualifier thing where it's a gauntlet run, just like the gauntlets you're used to right now in the client. And the first 324 players to 7-0 the gauntlet will additionally qualify, so that will make the total of 1024 players. One caveat, which is every time during a season that you get a 7-run win on your first attempt in Gauntlet, you get a kind of free win for the last chance Gauntlet.
Huh. Okay.
So if you're like a god at Gauntlet, and every week you hit your freaking 5-win, you hit your 7-win Gauntlet first try, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Wow, I need to.
You will go into the last chance Gauntlet with 5 wins already, and you'll just need to get 2 in a row.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, I need to start playing Gauntlet ever.
Now that's some extreme skill, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a way you can help your chances. It rewards players who play Gauntlet regularly and who play it skillfully. I like that. Once those people have been determined, there are 5 Swiss rounds with best of 3 matches. They haven't said anything about the structure of the best of 3. I'm hoping sideboards, but I'm guessing it won't be because it never is. And then the top 32 players after the 5 rounds of Swiss advance a week later to compete in a single elimination bracket. And the winner of that is the season champion. And I think and there's prizing for that, though I don't have it here in the moment. Oh, wait, here we go.
Yeah, they get to face me in the Grandmaster bracket for once. We're finally doing it, folks.
There you go. Okay, how do tournament matches work? Here we go, I found it. So it is the current Gauntlet structure with 3 decks, no duplicate champions, no duplicate combination of regions, and no more than 1 deck with no champions. Usual deck building rules, and with 1 ban, and conquest. So you have to win with both of your unbanned decks. And rounds are timed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they've said that they're working on a chess
Swim,
clock
watch out,
so that
brother,
you
I'm
can't
coming.
time out and you can't stall out your opponent, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is real high-level competition done entirely in client, and with a fairly egalitarian qualification process, right? If you're hardcore grinder and you can play all the time and you can get top 700 ladder, that's great, you have your in. But if you're not, play 1 gauntlet a week, see how you do, then play the last chance gauntlet, and all you need is a 7-0.
Yep.
It's not trivial to get that 7-0, but it's it's not a huge time commitment, and you can play skillfully and get into this event.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So, yeah,
probably
this
going to
is
be my path.
This is, I love it. It's great for, it's great for players. It's a lot of fun. It kind of builds a competitive scene inherently. They have already committed to broadcasting this. So I don't know how they're going to broadcast
Love
and how they're
that.
going to choose how they broadcast, especially with everything done in client. But it's a beginning of an esports scene for this game. The grand prize is $10,000 I just found, and everyone in the top
That's pretty good
32
money.
makes a cash prize. It's pretty nice.
That's pretty good money.
That's really good payout.
What is it? $5 and scales up?
Who knows?
$5.
Hey, I mean,
Yeah, you can get a friggin' foot long. Actually,
No.
can't even do that anymore. Jesus Christ, inflation these days. Yeah, I mean that sounds great to me. It sounds like I'm gonna have to be going through the gauntlet because for some reason they've messed up Grandmaster tier and it just keeps saying that I'm at Silver 2. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it sounds like I'm gonna have to go through the gauntlet, the stream, to get up there and face off with some of the greats.
Little
some
did
of the
you know,
bigs,
Silver 2 players, you're actually in Grandmaster tier.
You're actually playing against a Grandmaster. Yeah, I think that's exciting. It's good to have an esports scene. That'll give us maybe by this time come next year we'll have 3 listeners. They just happen to stumble upon our page when they're looking for Swim's thing, and we've referenced Swim in a couple of our videos, and all of a sudden they're on our stuff.
Bada boom, bada bing.
So yeah, I'm stoked to like triple our viewer count here. Yeah, I mean, do we have anything else to talk about this week? I think we covered most of it.
No, of course, there's more to talk about, Dan. We have not gone over the single most important thing with the new patch.
Oh,
the
yeah?
update to the emote meta.
Oh wow! I didn't even want to bring it up because I was trying to keep that for the season tournament. But I guess you've kind of forced my hand here.
Dan, we can't just let these things lie, right? People are gonna get emoted on in ways they can't understand.
Yeah.
We don't have to give away all of our secrets, but man, you have to talk about the new Tom Kench emote and what it does to the emote.
I was actually going to bring that one up. So I'm assuming that our listener is under the age of 16, so you probably don't actually know what the troll face emoji is, or I guess just the troll face from Rage Comics back in probably about Obama's first term when you were born. But it's sort of the face you make when you're like goofing on the other guy. You're like, oh, I'm being ironic, but I'm being sarcastic. I'm joking. I'm trolling you. That's actually where that comes from, and that's what Tom Kench is doing here. So you want to be doing that. Anytime, say, you make a mistake, you want to mask that with a Tom Kench emoji. So, for example, you play a 1-mana creature on turn 9 and then pass the turn, and they have no mana left, and they're like, is he next leveling me, or did he just make a mistake? And you hit him with the Tom Kench, and they're like, oh my god, he's next leveling me. I can't just pass back and end the round. And then you quickly recover. I think Tom Kench is gonna catch a lot of people off guard, and it's gonna save a lot of 200 IQ Rick and Morty watchers from making any mistakes. Yeah, I think this is going to be huge. It is already heavily in my rotation. I'm using it about every 2 minutes because, like I said, I'm in silver, and it is easy to just dunk on those kids for whatever reason. Yeah. But I will not give you my secrets to the Soraka. I'm sorry. That one is going to be... You'll see me whipping it out in the grand finals against, Swim? Mega Mogwai. You'll see me whipping it out then. It's just going to be... the final game between me and Swim is going to be an hour-long emote battle in which none of us actually play.
But there will be a clear winner.
Yeah, there will be a clear winner. I won't say who, but it's going to be me. Yeah, I think that wraps up the new emote meta. I will say the new ASOL. If you're using this one, you might think it's good. No, you're actually a punk ass. It looks cool at first blush, but it's not. people are just gonna label you for the glue eater that you are.
And that's how I
So,
next level them. Is
yeah.
I just every time.
Oh, I'm just over here eating Elmer's.
Look, the only problem with the ASOL meme is he doesn't immediately elbow a jukebox afterward.
True.
That would. God.
So let's think about this. If one of us makes it to the 32, the broadcasted tournament, whatever, what are we doing? Are we making shirt that say subscribe to Run the Terra? Like, what are we doing to really promote ourselves
something along those
and
lines.
elevate
I
ourselves?
think I might get sunglasses that say that, and
Okay.
play through those and have it seriously impair my vision. Much.
What if each of us now honors picking one of these 4 emotes to cosplay as during the entire tournament? Sounds like Stan's
I'll
going
go
for the
ASOL. I'll do it.
Okay, I'm clearly going for Tom Kench. What are you going for, Adam? You've got Soraka or Leona. So that means you're doing a cross-dress cosplay for an emote.
Fucking Leona, are you kidding? Have you
Okay,
seen that
fair enough.
Vision armor set? I would wear that armor into battle. I would wear that armor
It
into
would
the
be funny
bedroom.
to see you maintain a cheery disposition for, I guess, an entire broadcast of the stream.
God.
I also think we have to come up with meme decks.
Oh, absolutely.
I have to stay cheery. Never mind. Scratch that. I'm gonna fuck. What is the most disastrous emote?
Yeah, it's
You know,
not
no,
the
I
best
can
in
stay
this
cheery.
game.
I'll just cosplay the Thresh emote.
That's
Get in my
Okay,
fucking
fair
lantern.
yeah.
Yeah, probably there'll probably be a Thresh in it.
There is.
If there's not already one
A
now.
Thresh.
There already
Well,
is.
there's-
It's the get in the
yeah,
lantern emote.
There are.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We did it, folks.
So
We did it.
I think. Oh no.
What are we bringing deck-wise? Because I think we
Oh
need
yeah.
a meme on
So
them.
I'm gonna hack the game and submit 40 Teemos. That
Yeah.
deck will be immediately
Yeah,
be
thank you.
banned. They'll be able to ban one other deck. So I'll have to find a way to win this conquest tournament with.
Think about how much press we will get for you hacking the game, probably getting arrested, and then getting immediately DQ'd from submitting a 40 Teemo deck. I mean, that's a ton of free press. Probably more so than you even winning the game or
For
winning
sure,
the tourney.
it's definitely
Yeah.
bigger than the winner.
Do we finally make do we make a Trevor Snooze bottom deck? Do we just get all the meme cards together and put them in a deck?
Mind meld.
No,
You make mind meld.
Dan, you gotta bring 3 decks.
Yeah, we
It's-
finally
no,
did the Mind Meld
It's
deck.
3 decks, Dan. It's the Mind Meld deck, the Trevor Snooze bottom deck, and Big Slamoo.
Yeah.
Yes. All of our greatest hit.
And I, of course, will bring Shadow
man.
Atlas Failure Control, Karina Control, and Karma Ezreal because you can't stop me playing Control.
Fair.
I think what that's actually great. You can't control me, and it's all control decks. I think what I might do is I might make 2 hyper meta decks, and then make a third deck that is just like all 9 and 10 drops, and like try to like next level them and make they'll think, oh my god, he's clearly got I can't. I've got to ban the 9 mana decks because there's something brilliant he's doing here. And it's like, no, I just kind of accidentally submitted a deck full of big chunky boys.
I like
but
how
make 'em
your
think
plan
that I actually
revolves around
played
accidentally submitting a bad deck.
something. Yeah, just submitting a bad deck. That's my
Accidentally.
strategy.
That's the key thing is you have planned to have an accident.
Yes, I have a planned accident.
Oh.
And that's actually going to be the
Yep.
name of the deck, too. It's going to be called Planned Accident. And they're like, oh, no. He's going to own me. Yeah, I think that does it for us here, folks, at Run the Terra, unless you guys have anything else to add.
No.
I guess for my end statement, I would like to say, I would like to directly address, was it Ruben? What's his name? I want to say Dave Rubin, but that's that dingus that has that TV channel where he's like, I'm a really smart guy, and I think women just shouldn't be allowed to vote. But
You are so many steps removed from
Ruben
something I
Zoo.
understand.
Yeah, Ruben Zoo. I need you to go ahead and fix Bastion again. It should be 3 mana. You got it right the second time, not the first time, which was the third time, whatever. Put it back to 3 mana. Do me a solid. Let me grind up to rank 700, and then I'm not even asking for rank 2 or 1. Just give me to rank 700, and then put Bastion back to 4, or hell, put it to 5. I don't care. Once I'm at that point. Yeah, I think it's going to do it for us. So, run the Terra. I've been Grandmaster Dan.
I've been Adam Munoz.
And I was a planned accident.
And we'll still be those people dead, and we'll see you then, or whatever.